You get a message. You open it, read the whole thing, and think, I'll reply later. Then you put your phone down. An hour passes, then the rest of the day. The next morning, you see the conversation again. Now it feels like you can't just reply normally. You also need to explain why you took so long. You saw the message. You meant to answer. You might care a lot about the person who sent it. So why didn't you reply? Not replying doesn't always mean you don't care. One message feels easy, another feels strangely heavy. There are 5 common reasons this happens, and once you know which one sounds like you, it becomes a little easier to deal with. The first is that replying feels like a task. A friend sends you a few paragraphs about their week, then asks how you're doing. You read it during lunch. You could send a short answer, but it doesn't feel like a short answer kind of message. It feels like something that deserves time and attention. So you think, I'll sit down and reply tonight. By tonight, you're tired. You need to make dinner, finish some work, or just stop thinking for a while. So the message gets pushed to tomorrow. You're not stuck on the wording. You're not afraid of saying the wrong thing. You just don't have the energy or attention to get started. In your head, a simple reply has turned into a full, meaningful conversation, and you're waiting until you have enough space for it. If this happens a lot, it can help to separate acknowledging the message from answering it fully. You might send, I saw this. I'm a little drained right now, but I'll reply properly later. That keeps the conversation open. You don't have to come up with the full response right there and then. The second reason is that you're waiting for the perfect words. A friend tells you that work has been awful lately. You type, that sucks. I'm sorry. Then you read it again. It sounds too cold. You replace it with something longer. Now it sounds like you're giving advice they didn't ask for. You change the opening. You delete a sentence. You add it back. In the end, you decide to reply when you can phrase it better. And by trying to write the perfect response, you send no response at all. This isn't really about being tired. You might have plenty of time. You just don't let yourself answer casually. You want the tone to be exactly right. Warm, but not dramatic. Thoughtful, but not preachy. Short, but not dismissive. But most messages don't need the best possible answer. They just need a real one. I'm not sure what the right thing to say is, but I'm really sorry you're dealing with that. It isn't perfect, but it says what matters. Then there are messages that feel difficult for a different reason. Someone asks for a favor you don't want to do. They want an explanation. There's been an argument. Or the message asks you to make a decision that might disappoint them. A coworker texts, "Can you cover my shift tomorrow?" You don't want to say yes, but saying no feels uncomfortable. If you agree, you'll be annoyed with yourself. If you refuse, they might be disappointed. So you leave the message alone for a while. For the next few hours, not answering gives you some relief. You haven't agreed, refused, explained yourself, or started a difficult conversation. But the decision is still waiting. And now your late reply has added a second problem. Sometimes you're not avoiding the person. You're avoiding the feeling attached to the message. It might be guilt, conflict, responsibility, or just the discomfort of setting a boundary. That's why you can answer 5 casual messages while carefully avoiding one particular chat. You don't have to solve the whole situation immediately, but you can make your silence a little clearer. I need some time to think about this. Can I give you an answer tomorrow? And if you already know the answer, a short, polite no is usually kinder than making the other person wait. Saying no may still feel awkward. Waiting usually doesn't make it easier. The next reason is much simpler. You read the message at the wrong moment. You're standing in line at the supermarket when a friend asks if you're free on Saturday. You think, probably, I'll check when I get home. You've read the message. You've considered the question. You've even formed an answer in your mind. Then you put your phone away. At home, you unpack the groceries. A work email arrives. Someone sends a video to the group chat. Your attention moves on. Because the original message is already marked as read, it no longer looks unfinished. 2 days later, your friend asks again, and you realize the only reply you sent was the one inside your head. Sometimes it really is that simple. You read it at the wrong moment, got distracted, and forgot. If you can't answer then, mark the message as unread, pin the conversation, set a reminder, or send, "Just saw this while I'm out. I'll check when I get home." "I'll remember later" sounds like a plan. Most of the time, it's just a thought. The last reason often starts with one of the others. The delay becomes the problem. At first, you're only a few hours late. Then you think you should probably apologize. Another day passes. Now an apology doesn't seem like enough. You feel like you also need to explain where you've been and why you didn't answer. The original message might have been simple. "Are you free this weekend?" All you had to say was yes or no. But several days later, it feels as if you have to answer, apologize, explain the delay, and work out whether the other person is annoyed. That embarrassment makes you avoid opening the chat. Avoiding it creates more guilt, and the guilt makes replying feel even worse. After a while, the message isn't the main problem anymore. The delay is. That's how an ordinary message can sit there for weeks. You start thinking that coming back requires a long explanation, so you keep putting it off. Usually, it doesn't. "Sorry, I disappeared for a few days. I kept meaning to reply. Are you still free this weekend?" It admits the delay without turning the apology into another obstacle. There's an important difference between understanding this behavior and excusing all of it. Occasionally missing a message because you were tired, distracted, or busy is normal. If you keep avoiding certain messages, especially requests, conflict, rejection, or responsibility, it's worth noticing what kind of conversation you find difficult. But consistently ignoring people and expecting them to keep waiting or following up is different. Understanding why you don't reply can explain the behavior. It doesn't erase the effect on other people. They can't see the thoughtful answer you planned. They can't see the pressure you felt or the 5 versions you wrote and deleted. They can only see the silence. You don't need a whole system for this. If you don't have the energy for a full response, send a quick acknowledgement. "I saw this. I'll get back to you tomorrow." If you're stuck on the wording, let your answer be good enough. A slightly imperfect message is still a message. If the conversation feels difficult, ask for time clearly. "I need to think about this. Can I answer tomorrow?" And if forgetting is the problem, use something outside your memory. Mark the message as unread, pin it, or set an alert. If your reply is already very late, keep your return simple. "Sorry for the delay. I kept putting this off, but I didn't want to leave you hanging." Then continue the conversation. That unanswered message might still be sitting there. Maybe it became a task. Maybe you were waiting for the perfect words. The message might have felt uncomfortable, or you might have read it at the wrong moment and forgotten. Whatever the reason, not replying doesn't always mean you don't care, but the silence is still part of the conversation. Think of one message you've been avoiding and send one honest line. It doesn't have to explain everything. It only has to reopen the conversation.